August 12, 2025, 9:42 a.m. local time. The skies above the Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea looked calm, blue, cloudless, deceptively peaceful. But in that quiet, a single silhouette glided high above the waters, a machine unlike any other on Earth. At first glance, its flying wing design made it almost invisible, even to the naked eye. No tail, no vertical fins, no shape for radar to cling to. Just 172 feet of black composite material gliding through the upper atmosphere like a ghost. On paper, it was just another aircraft, but in reality, it represented 1/10 of America's entire stealth bomber fleet. Only 19 operational B-2 Spirits exist in the world, each valued at over $2.1 billion. And today, one of them was flying directly over one of the world's most contested maritime flashpoints. Inside the cockpit, the two pilots maintained radio silence, their mission classified, their route carefully plotted to remain in international airspace. But for Beijing, Scarborough Shoal, just 120 nautical miles from the Philippine coast, was sovereign territory, and at 9:43 a.m., China decided to act. Inside a coastal defense bunker 142 nautical miles away, Chinese radar operators monitored their long-range 300-meter over-the-horizon radar arrays. For minutes, the screen showed nothing unusual until one operator noticed a faint blip. A radar cross-section so small it measured just 0.1 square meters. The missile's specifications were chilling. Speed, Mach 14, over 10,700 miles per hour. Range, 1,000 kilometers. Payload, 400-pound fragmentation warhead. Designed purpose, kill stealth aircraft. At 9:45:12 a.m., the missile ignited. Flames ripped across the launch pad. A white contrail tore into the sky. Inside the B-2 Spirit, the threat display lit up red. A sharp tone screamed in the pilots' helmets, "Missile launch detected." The Spirit was cruising at 35,000 feet and just under 550 miles per hour. At that speed, they had less than 42 seconds before impact. The pilot banked sharply to the west. At the same time, the electronic warfare officer activated countermeasures, flooding the radar bands with false signals. At 9:45:37 a.m., the missile was already 50 miles away and closing fast. Its infrared seeker locked onto the faint heat of the B-2's engines. The pilots released flares, hoping to break the lock. Then, at 9:45:56 a.m., the missile detonated prematurely. A blinding white flash lit up the sky, 7 miles behind the Spirit. The shockwave rocked the bomber, but it survived. The entire encounter had lasted 1 minute, 54 seconds. But in those seconds, the world nearly changed forever. The proposal was clear. Operation Iron Dagger. Objective: obliterate the HQ-19 battery that had dared to target the Spirit. Constraints: minimize collateral damage, strike within international law, and send an unmistakable message. The deception plan was equally critical. The Mall decoys would appear as an entire wing of B-52 bombers. Growlers would jam communications. F-35s would strike radars. And in the middle of the chaos, the B-2 Spirits would glide in unseen, deliver their payloads, and vanish. By 2:03 a.m. local time, August 13th, the strike package crossed the commit line over the Philippine Sea. On radar screens across China's southern coast, operators suddenly saw dozens of incoming signals, what looked like a massive U.S. bomber raid. HQ-9 and HQ-22 batteries turned east, preparing to intercept, but they were chasing ghosts. Unseen, at 31,000 feet altitude, the two B-2 Spirits threaded the southwestern corridor, their radar cross-section no larger than a golf ball. At 2:14 a.m., they crossed the Chinese coastline. The target lay ahead, a fortified HQ-19 complex ringed by concrete blast walls, radar domes, and missile launchers. The pilots armed their joint direct attack munition, and in the next 88 seconds, the fate of China's most advanced air defense would be decided. 2:14 a.m. local time, August 13th, 2025. The two B-2 Spirits, call signs Nightfall 1 and Nightfall 2, were now less than 40 nautical miles from their target. In their bomb bays sat 16 GBU-31 JDAMs, each armed with a 2,000-pound hardened penetrator. The weapons had a margin of error of less than 10 meters. Inside the cockpit, the pilots whispered final checks. "Weapons hot," came the call. At 2:15 p.m., Nightfall 1 released its first wave of JDAMs. Silent, invisible, they plummeted from 31,000 feet at nearly Mach 1. The first two bombs struck the HQ-19's radar dome. In an instant, its massive 60-foot phased array antenna collapsed into fire and twisted steel. The next volley tore through the missile launchers themselves. Each detonation ignited the HQ-19's solid fuel boosters in violent chain reactions, secondary explosions so fierce they lit the horizon for miles. At 2:16:31 a.m., Nightfall 2's bombs hit the command bunker. Their delayed fuses allowed them to penetrate 5 feet into reinforced concrete before detonating, pulverizing the underground control center. The ground shook with a force equivalent to a small earthquake. Flames reached 2,000 degrees Celsius. By 2:17:08 a.m., just 88 seconds after the first bomb was released, the HQ-19 battery was gone. As the Spirits banked westward, invisible once more, their F-35C escorts loitered above the coast. Through infrared feeds, they confirmed the devastation. But the material loss was only half the story. More devastating was the operational impact. With the HQ-19 site offline, a 120-mile segment of China's coastal air defense network went dark. For hours, U.S. carrier groups, ISR drones, and patrol aircraft could operate through a blind corridor. For Beijing, it was not just a defeat, it was humiliation. By 2:21 a.m., the strike package had cleared the coastline. Super Hornets recalled their decoys. Growlers shut down their jamming pods. Tankers prepared for mid-air refueling, and by 3:07 a.m., the B-2 Spirits were already out of danger. They had flown more than 6,000 nautical miles round-trip, delivered over 80,000 pounds of precision munitions, and returned without a scratch, not even a radar lock. At 3:15 a.m., President Trump addressed the world. Backed by satellite imagery and AWACS radar logs, he declared, "The B-2 Spirit was attacked without provocation in international airspace. The United States has responded under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Let it be clear. We will defend our aircraft, our crews, and our right to operate anywhere international law allows." The message was blunt, and global reactions were immediate. Within 6 hours, the Philippines condemned China's launch as reckless and destabilizing. Japan reaffirmed its alliance with the U.S. and pledged expanded patrols in the East China Sea. Australia announced joint naval exercises with U.S. carrier groups in the Coral Sea. Even NATO members in Europe issued cautious statements, warning Beijing against further escalation. Inside China's Eastern Theater Command, panic rippled. Intelligence intercepts revealed frantic redeployments. Mobile HQ-19 batteries moved inland, radar frequencies shifted, satellite coverage redirected to plug the Scarborough Gap. But nothing could erase the fact that China's most advanced anti-stealth weapon had been annihilated in 88 seconds. Asian stock markets dipped briefly, fearing escalation. Oil prices spiked past $112 per barrel, but stabilized once it became clear that the U.S. strike was precise, limited, and controlled. By sunrise, the Scarborough Shoal incident was technically over. The B-2 sat quietly on their tarmac in Guam, engines cooling. The South China Sea had returned to uneasy calm, but the echoes of those 88 seconds reverberated across the globe. For Washington, the operation reinforced its credibility to allies and adversaries alike. For Beijing, it was a reminder that detection does not guarantee survival. And for the world, it raised a terrifying question. If one missile launch could nearly ignite a US-China clash, what would happen the next time? As the Pacific sun rose, it cast light on a new reality, one where the South China Sea was no longer just disputed waters, but a flashpoint for global conflict. The skies may have grown quiet again, but make no mistake, beneath that calm lies the storm of a war that could engulf the world. And when the next missile launches, the countdown to catastrophe may already have begun.